Good afternoon, students, and we're now in week 7. And for your week 7 forum, all you have to do is give me an outline of your comparison contrast essay. So you're going to be doing a comparison contrast essay outline in week 7 and week 8, and we're going to be working on essay 2, which is your comparison contrast essay, week 7, week 8, week 11, and week 12. In week 9 and 10, you're going to be working on something else. In week 9, we're going to do the persuasive essay post. And week 10, we're going to do a APA worksheet. And so for those of you last week who did APA on their chemistry paper, they already know their APA, so their week 10 assignment will be easy for them. But for the rest of you, you will have to watch my week 10 lecture, and I will go over how to do the week 10 worksheet. Then in weeks 11 and 12, we are going to return to the comparison contrast essay. So you just have to remember that. Usually people forget by that time, and they're surprised. We're still doing that comparison contrast essay from 3 weeks ago. So anyway, so for today, so today's lecture is going to be about business communications. So without further ado, I will share my screen to that. So let's start. New slide. Should I do the slideshow from beginning? There we go. So today we're going to be doing business communication, and we're going to learn how to write letters, memos, interpersonal communications, working in groups, working in other countries, travel business writing templates, and how to write a business proposal. So when we write in business, we have business emails, business letters, a business memo, and people don't use faxes anymore, and then these are the major types of business communications. So why are we learning business communications in an English communication class? Because several students asked me to create a presentation. So I do listen to your end of class survey. Somebody actually asked for this topic in their end of class survey. So there's many different kinds of writing. There's academic writing, creative writing, and business writing. In academic writing, we are doing research on a research topic, such as abortion, gun control, or education. In creative writing, we write poems, stories, and movies, and we use first-person case primarily. In business writing, we are trying to sell our product to a customer. We want the customer to come back to the company. And so when we write a business letter, you still have the introduction, one body paragraph, but the conclusion is not a summary conclusion. It's a call to action conclusion, where you're trying to convince the reader, come to our company, come buy our product. So you want the reader to take an action. So that's the difference between business communication and academic communication, where in academic communication, you're reporting the facts of your topic. You want to educate or inform the reader, whereas in business communications, you want the reader to get up out of their chair and actually do something. So that's the difference. And creative writing is writing about your feelings in poetry, books, that sort of thing. So those are the main kinds of writing. And then this is the same thing. Okay, so the building blocks of effective messaging. So when we write business writing, we want to build goodwill. We want people to come back to our company. And in order to build goodwill, you have to be able to write an effective message. And just like when you write your essays, when you write an email, you want one idea per email. So when you write an email, just stick to one subject. Then when you have another subject, then you write another email. Don't try to stick 50 different subjects in one email, because people will just read through it too fast and miss it. And so business communication is an essential tool for the day-to-day operations of a company. It helps people organize and communicate with each other, and it helps people build professional relationships. So it is important to know how to communicate effectively. The key to success in the workplace is good communication skills. Stephen Reeder has found among people with 2 to 4 year degrees, in the top 20%, earn more, 3 times more than workers who don't write very well. Basically, if you can write well, you earn more money. When writing is not as good as it should be, your organization pays a price in wasted time and loss of goodwill. Also, if you make grammar mistakes in your email, then people are not going to do business with you, because when you write something for your company, you represent that company. So if you make a lot of grammar mistakes in your writing, then customers will think, oh wow, this company is full of uneducated people, and then that will turn people away from your company. And so the part of building a good image is taking the time to learn how to write correctly and free of grammar errors. And so save time. So that's why even when you write a business letter or when you write an email, you still use the 5-paragraph essay structure. But the only difference is you're not going to have 5 paragraphs. When you write an email, you probably have 2 or 3 sentences, maybe 5 sentences. And when you write a business letter, you most likely have 3 paragraphs. And in each paragraph, probably 2 or 3 sentences tops. So maybe an introduction, then you have a middle paragraph, a body paragraph of 3 sentences, and then a call to action conclusion of 3 sentences. So you got to keep whatever you're writing. Unlike essays where you have to write 3 to 5 sentences, in a business letters, maybe 1 or 2 sentences, good enough. The shorter it is, the better it is. But mainly you want to build goodwill, and you want to help build a bias-free. You want to write in a bias-free way. In other words, objectively. And so use more neutral alternatives when gender is not important. So instead of saying businessman or businesswoman, now people say business people. Instead of saying fireman, you say first responders. And so you try to use gender-neutral pronouns so that you have bias-free language. So guidelines for achieving bias-free communications. Be aware of words, images, and situations that suggest all or most members of a group are the same. Avoid qualifiers that reinforce stereotypes. So avoid saying things like all people are something, or that sort of thing. Always say some people are something. So avoid saying all or nothing. Avoid identifying people only by one characteristic or reducing people to just one trait, because then you're dealing with, and also be aware of any personal bias you may have. So that would help you get rid of your bias, because you want bias free. So here are some examples. So instead of saying, say people and humanity, don't use mankind. Instead of saying workforce or employees, well, I don't know how to get rid of this stupid thing. Hold on. Okay, so instead of saying workforce, use workforce and employees instead of manpower. So you want to avoid referring to any kind of gender. So instead of saying fireman, you say firefighter. Instead of saying policeman, you say police officer. Instead of saying postman, you say postal carrier. Instead of saying chairman or chairwoman, you just say chair. And so you always want to keep it. Gee, I wonder why this isn't. Now it's not. So here are some examples. So what is another way of saying stewardess if you wanted to be gender neutral? Chantal? Flight attendant. What about waiter or waitress? What's another way of saying waiter and waitress? Food server. What about mankind? Humanity. Lots of men do the work. So instead of saying men, what would you replace men with? Lots of people.
People.
Yeah, lots of people do the work. And how would you say it instead of saying policeman?
Police officer.
Police officer. What would you say instead of actors or actresses?
Actor.
Well, if you say actor, you know it's a guy. If you say actresses, you know it's a girl. So you want to be neutral, and you would say performer or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I thought they changed that though. I thought they just said actor now instead of actress and actor.
it depends.
You're probably right.
Yeah, I'm probably right or wrong. No, they could have changed it too. But yeah, you could use actor or performer. But I think performer is even more neutral than actor. But you're right, it could be actor. So he or she, instead of using he or she, what would you use? I'm giving a clue. What would you use instead of he or she? Use the plural form. What is the plural form of?
Them.
They and them, yes. So you get the idea. So you would say everyone did their homework instead of saying everyone did his or her homework. So yeah, you got to be gender neutral. Each student does their work. Every man, woman, and child are on their way out. Normally you would say his and her, but these days you would write them and their. And so that's big. When possible, write in the plural, and then write in the. And unlike when you write an essay, in business writing, you can use you and your, because you want to appeal to the customer. You want to look relatable. So in business writing, it's acceptable to use you and your, just not in your essays. And so avoid using his or her. That we already just did. And so what are the benefits of good communication skills? Katina?
What you're trying to convey is clear.
Okay. And Jasmine, what are some examples of bias-free language? Oh, I forgot to
hello?
ask. Yeah, I forgot to ask if you could see the presentation.
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
I should have asked earlier. Oh, I forgot today.
No,
Sorry.
it's okay.
Sorry about
What was
that.
your question again?
What are some examples of bias-free language?
Try to refrain from using he and her.
Yeah. Try use. Don't mention gender. So that makes it more inclusive. Adapting your message to your audience. And so the 7 C's of communication. You have to be clear, concise, concrete, correct, coherent, complete, and courteous. Those are the 7 C's of effective communication. Clear. Make sure you focus on one central idea in your message. Make sure all your body paragraphs all relate to the main idea. If you have coherence in your message, then your message is clear. This is just like your 5-paragraph essay structure. If you write one email, focus on that one idea. Same thing with if you write one business letter, you focus on one main idea. In the thesis statement, is in the introduction, just like in an essay. Then you illustrate that idea in your body paragraph, and then you have 2 or 3 sentences in your conclusion to call to action the reader to do something. And you get rid of a lot of words. Keep it short and concise. My problem is I talk too much and write too much. Be concrete. When your message is concrete, then your audience has a clear picture of what you're telling them. Don't put too many details. Unlike essay writing, you don't have to have so many details. You just keep it really, really short, and make sure you make no grammar mistakes. So you can use Grammarly. Grammarly is excellent at finding your grammar mistakes, and Grammarly also helps you with your tone. Always maintain a positive tone, a professional tone, and Grammarly helps you with that as well. And so when your communication is coherent and has a thesis statement with relating body paragraphs, and you have good tone and good flow of the text, then your communication is coherent. And in a complete message, you make sure that the audience has everything they need to be informed. And then, of course, you have your call to action. Be courteous. Now, if you're working in a foreign country, the English or their language, it's more formal. People don't go around. It's not like in California where everybody says, "Hey, Joe, how's your weekend?" Let's say you're in an office. But in other countries, you would say, "Hello, Mr. Smith. How are you doing?" And so always ask. If you're in another country, you ask, what's the title? What does that person want to be called? And how does that person does that person want to be called Miss, Mr., Mrs., Madame, Monsieur? So it's good to always learn how to properly greet somebody when you're in another country, because everything is more formal in other countries compared to the United States. So Chantel, what are the 7 C's of communication?
Ooh.
They are, you said, correct,
Okay.
clear, complete,
Mm-hmm.
courteous,
Okay, you got 4.
Coherent?
Concise. Yeah, so even I don't know all 7 without looking it up, but you get the idea that you have to be complete, concise, coherent, correct, and all of that in order to have an effective message. So, do you guys practice the 7 C's of communication? Anybody want to volunteer to answer that one? Who does that?
No, I don't.
You don't. I'm usually not as concise as I should be.
I don't either. Sorry.
Yeah, I need to be more. My weakness is being concise. So when you write a business letter, just like in academic writing, you go through the writing process. You go through the except you do it within 2 minutes in your head. You know what I mean? But you don't have to actually do a mind map and show the teacher your work. You actually do it in your head, and you actually do the pre-writing very quickly within 2 or 3 minutes in your head. So the whole thing is, it's too not laborious. So just like when you pre-write for an essay, we also pre-write for any business communication. Decide on what you want to write about. Write about just one idea or thought. Provide details that support just that one idea or thought. And create an outline in your head of what you want to write about so that you can visually see in your head what you're going to write before you write it down. So people, when it gets that automatic, so then you, in writing, then the second stage is you convert what you see in your head, the visual outline, into something that you write down that everybody else is going to see. So you got to use proper APA formatting, and you need to use APA formatting anytime you use any kind of numbers. And then you can also look at someone else's template of another memo or email proposal in order to see what the proper structure for that company is. When I first started working in an office, templates. We didn't have internet in those days. So I remember this secretary, she had a drawer full of all these letters and templates, and she would just give me all the old letters, and then she would just say, just follow the structure of all the old letters and just change the dates and numbers. So and names. So you just change Mr. Smith instead of Mr. Jones. It's 1978 and 1980 instead of 1975 or whatever. You change that. That's it. And so that's how when I first started in an office, templates. Then rewriting, you can use Grammarly. These days, everybody uses Grammarly to rewrite because Grammarly lights up anything that's wrong and or you can have somebody proofread it for you. So how to solve business communication problems. Understand the situation. Analyze the situation with analysis questions. Brainstorm solutions. Use words that are familiar to people. Avoid bigger words people may not understand. In a sentence, keep your subject and verb together. Use parallel structure. Use you as a call to action for the reader. And so in business writing, you use you a lot, especially in technical writing. Make sure each paragraph, this one I disagree with the business book, should be more like 2 or 3 sentences per paragraph. Use transition words. Use consistent verb tense. So if you start your sentence in the present tense, then the rest of your sentence should be in the present tense. Write in active voice, not passive voice. You can use passive voice if you're writing a scientific paper. Vary your sentence structure or you'll make your reader fall asleep. So, Katina, what is the writing process in the workplace?
Oh my goodness. I'm not sure.
What is the writing process that we learned in this class? It's the same thing. Anybody can help Katina?
Like your pre-writing, the planning, right?
Yep. Yes. Yeah. Yep.
In a rough draft,
Yep.
Looking it over and then editing.
Yes, except it's much faster because if you're going to write a quick email, that whole writing process should all go in your brain within a few seconds, and then you write it down. You see, you visualize what you're going to, in other words, when you visualize something, you're visualizing an introduction paragraph. Then with a thesis stage, then you're visualizing, oh, what description am I going to give of that main idea? And then what call to action conclusion am I going to have? And that all appears instantaneously in your head as you type it out. That way you don't waste time going writing your mind mapping. That's just for school. In the real world, you do it in your head instantly. That's how it works at the office. No one has the time to write a mind map. So the mind map is in your head. The sandwich method. What is the sandwich method? The sandwich method is a way for you to give bad news to people. So if you're at the office, it's like a hamburger. So here, the top bun, you say something nice. Then in the meat, areas of improvement. That's where you put the bad news. And then the bottom bun is the positive. So positive, negative, positive. That is a sandwich method. And also you try to mitigate what you're going to say negative. And you try to cushion the effect. And so that's how we give bad news at the office. Also, when teachers give you feedback, they're supposed to also follow the sandwich method, although not all teachers do that. Do you use does anyone know about the sandwich method? Jasmine, have you used the sandwich method at the office? To give someone a job performance overview? Anybody else? No?
Yes, I used to when I was a manager at a store and I had to do their reviews. I would always start out with a positive, go into what could be considered the negative, and then follow up with the positive.
Correct. And I always say that if you're going to do any kind of review, just like with peer review, you got to give that person actionable suggestions. So if, let's say you tell someone, you do a great job, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine. Then in the middle part, whatever you give, it should be something actionable that they can do in order to improve what they're going to do. Then you can give something positive. So it can't simply be you suck, because you're doing a bad job, because then the worker is not going to know why. What can they do to improve? So just like with peer review, you got to have some kind of actionable suggestion to back up your you suck and that sort of thing. And so give any good news and summarize the main points. Give detailed clarification. Well, in other words, just tell them what they can do. Explain any reader benefits. Show how your idea or policy will benefit the reader. I think this has to do with proposals. Use the sandwich method. Give a reason for the bad news. Prepare the listener for the bad news in a professional, unemotional tone, as brief as possible. Do it just once, clearly. Present alternatives, solutions, or compromise as a way out of the problem. End on a positive note. Ask for input or call to action to brainstorm on to solve the problem. So you can even brainstorm. So since you always use so much slang in your English, what can we do together, Susan, to mitigate so that you can learn how to speak better English and without so much, It drives everyone nuts when you end every sentence with, Otherwise, your presentations are very clear. You use great APA in-text citations, but ending every single sentence with that irritating habit of yours, is not good, not professional. So that's how you would then you would ask Susan, how do you think you can cut that out? What can you do to stop that habit? And then Susan would say, oh, but I've been doing that since high school. But you know what? I'm going to write an index card and tell myself to stop saying whatever, So you can ask for input. This is actually, when I worked at an office, this is an actual situation where somebody was saying, and it was so annoying. Have you ever known anyone who did that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so annoying. And then we had to tell her. Otherwise, she did an excellent job other than the, So what is the sandwich method? Hassan? Anybody else after Hassan? Because I see it. Oh, there's Don. So Don, what is the sandwich method?
I'm just listening. I'm trying to get it, figure it out.
Okay, so anybody can help Don. What is the sandwich method?
This is when you start with the positive, start with the positive, in the middle you said was the meat, so which is the bad news, and then you end on the positive note.
Yes, and so Josie says that she did that all the time at work because it softens the blow. I once worked somewhere where the person would just come right out and say, "You do everything wrong." Of course, that didn't set people up. I worked at a school where this guy would evaluate all the teachers, and he just came right out and told everybody what they did wrong. And I remember in the faculty room, everyone disliked him. Everyone thought he was unfair and stuff like that. In other words, low morale. When that evaluator got fired, it seemed everyone went, yay, because they thought he was some kind of bully. So that's not the kind of image as a leader, as a business leader, you don't want that kind of image because you want people to respect you and look up to you. Anyway, so communicating across cultures. Cultural awareness is important to global business and powered with good communication skills. Culture is made up of agreed upon expectations based upon how people interact. Specific behaviors or customs are associated with certain groups or people. So in different cultures, you have different ways of behaving. And so like eye contact. So in American culture, we always maintain eye contact to show that we're being earnest, honest, and enthusiastic. But in Asian culture, if you have eye contact, let's say I look up to someone older than me, eye contact, that's considered very rude. Just like in America, it's very rude to just ignore someone. If someone says hi to you and you don't say hi back, that's rude. So then personal space. In other cultures, it's okay to sit very, very close or stand very, very close to somebody. But in America, you need to have, there's a certain personal space. And so I read somewhere that North America has the most, you got to have biggest personal space. And so all of this, and also body language. If I go like this, come over here, that's what it means in English. But in some cultures, that means it's a bad word, and it's that F word with the U in other cultures. And if you're not aware of that, and you do that to someone in another culture, you're inadvertently giving that person the F word. So you got to be aware of your body gestures. You got to be aware of personal space, eye contact, and that sort of thing. And you could usually learn that by just watching. If you're in another culture, you just watch how everybody, just like dress code. If you go to an office on the East Coast, everyone dresses in a suit. You come to the West Coast and everyone's in flip-flops. That was the first thing I noticed when I came from the East Coast to the West Coast, was how informal the Californians are. So you just, when in Rome, do as the Romans. So most Western cultures are individual-based cultures. That is, decisions are made for the benefit of the individual. For instance, American business accepts and encourages competition and believes that competition produces better performance in the workplace. However, most Asian cultures are group-based cultures. Decisions are made for the benefit of the group. In Japan, competition is thought to create disharmony. So in the workplace, you try to avoid competition and you always make all your decisions together. So that means that people work as a group. And so whatever decisions you make, it has to be good for the group. And I think it was back in the 80s that American business tried to adopt a lot of the Japanese business practices of teamwork and group work. So for some of you, this might sound familiar because American businesses have tried to adopt some of this group work ethic by everybody working for the team. Go and do it for the team. All these retreats that you go on so that you could feel, more concrete with your team. So yeah, some of the Asian, and then some in Asia, some of the competition has percolated. But just be aware that in different cultures, like in American culture, it's all about individual happiness. So if I get married and I don't like the guy that my parents chose, and I choose my husband the way what I want, then I walk away with, at the end of the story, I walk away into the sunset with my, whomever I choose. In Asian culture, you sacrifice for your parents. So at the end of the day, you dump your boyfriend, and then you go off into the sunset with your elderly parents, promising to take care of them for the rest of their lives. So then that way the family is more important than the individual. So that's the difference in value between Asian and Western culture. So you got to be aware of that. And also I want to add on, no culture is better than the other. And just because I mention differences, it doesn't mean I'm saying, oh, well, Western culture is better, or oh, Asian culture is better. They're just different, and you just have to be aware of differences, and that's it. What else? How people respond to change. First, we examine different cultures have different ways of responding to change. In American culture, it's all about novelty, youth, and we love change, and we get tired of anything old. And in other cultures, they stick by their traditions. And so in American culture, if you're young, and you're a boss, everyone looks up to you. In Asian culture, if you're older, then everybody looks up to you. So if you're going to do business in another culture, you're not going to bring your very young boss to represent your company. You're going to bring someone older with white hair to represent your company, because in other cultures, they respect age more than they respect youth. Does that make sense? So that's how different cultures respond to change. And in Africa, it's all about family relations. Who are you related to? What clan do you belong to? And even when you're given a job performance, it's also what clan or your family affiliation. Whereas in America, it's all about how well you as the individual can take initiative and push ahead. And then in Asian culture, how well do you work with your group, you see? And how are you able to sacrifice your personal belongings or personal beliefs in order to merge with the group, you see? And how well you do that. So every culture has a different way of measuring success. And in Eastern Europe and Middle East, it's all about stability and safety. And so how can you make everyone feel safe? And how can you make everyone feel stable? So particularly, and also in the Middle East, it's all about authority. So if you can make everyone feel safe, stable, and like your company has been around for 100 years. You would emphasize the fact that your company has been around for 100 years. You've done a certain way of operating business for 100 years. It's the same way. That becomes more important. If you're in America, it's all about the newest gadget. You can invent the newest gadget with the newest side effects. Just like with the iPhones. Every new cell phone has an iPhone 14, 15, whatever it is. And so it's all about what's new, whereas in other cultures, it's all about what's old. And then how people interact. And so in other cultures, like I said, in American culture, it's about the individual, whereas in other cultures, it's about interdependence. In other words, you depend on others, teamwork, to get things done. So firms in Western Europe and North and South America lean toward a higher level of independence. And however, this tendency manifests itself in different ways. Western Europe and North American firms exhibit an especially strong emphasis on results, goal orientation, and achievements. And then in other cultures, it's all about being cooperative, respectful, and rule-abiding. It's not so much your individuality, it's all about how well you play with others, you see. Even if you're not good at being productive or being profitable for the company, but if you're cooperative, respectful, and rule-abiding, then you get high grades for that in other countries, and countries like Australia and New Zealand, you see. And then how people interact. And so in South America, they don't, it's not so much about individuality or obeying the rules or tradition, it's about enjoyment. So in South America, enjoyment ranks highly. So if you can make people have fun and have a lighthearted work environment, that's highly valued in South America. And so how people interact in all of these different places depends on where you are and whether it's interdependence, individuality, or having a good time. nonverbal communication is like your body language. So that's what I said when you go like this. That just means come over here in English. And then if I go like this, in some countries, this means anger. In the United States, I think it means you're bored. And so that sort of thing. And so you have to be aware of your body language and not inadvertently be rude without being recognized. In some places, if you don't look straight in the eye, you could, in the United States, I already mentioned this, it's a lack of respect. So if you have an Asian and an American, you've got to be clear on that, because everybody wants respect. And in some parts of the world, if they don't get that respect, you get shot. So from culture to culture, nonverbal signals can be misinterpreted. So nonverbal signals have different meanings in different cultures. And like in China, you have to teach them to smile, because in China and Europe, we only smile if we know that person really well. We don't smile at strangers because we don't know them very well. But in the United States, let's say you work at McDonald's, you are required to smile at the customer to make the customer feel good. So when the McDonald's opened in China, they had to teach the Chinese workers to smile at the customers, and it didn't come naturally for them. So you have to know nonverbal communication so that you don't have miscommunication. And so when you are writing, you have to write more formal. So be clear and be adult. Use complete sentences. Use the proper form of address when speaking to someone at an office in another country. Ask your peers tell your peers how you want to be addressed. Be friendly, honest, and relaxed. And avoid slang, cliches, contractions, and sports metaphors when writing and talking to people in other cultures in the office. And this goes especially for men who like to use sports metaphors in everything. So who wants to volunteer? How do you define culture?
I'll go.
Okay.
So culture is important global. That's culture awareness. Culture is different people from different backgrounds of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you got a group of people. So culture is a group of people that do things a certain way. Group of people that have certain traditions and do things that certain way. So that's how you would define culture. What kind of different values and beliefs do different cultures have? So who wants to volunteer that one?
I don't know if this is one, but I know the Arabics, the men, they aren't allowed, or is it the women? They aren't allowed to look in the man's face, and the man is not allowed to touch a woman.
Right. And so in some cultures, a woman has to wear that face, the hijab, I believe that's what it's called, and it's part of the religion. So you have to be aware of those customs. And even if you're from the West, if you're a woman from the West, you travel to the Middle East, you still have to wear a hijab. When Hillary Clinton went to the Middle East to do some business, she also had to wear a covering also, even though she was such a high diplomat and so famous and all of that. And what are some other cultures and values and beliefs? So some cultures are group-based and some cultures are individual-based. And so what culture is your nationality? Are you from a group-based culture or are you from a individual-based culture?
I guess since we're here, in America, is more individual.
Yes. So we're more individual-based, whereas if you're from South America or any other part of the world, it's more group-based. Okay, so working and writing in groups. So in the United States, you start on time, you come to the meeting prepared, you focus comments on the issues, you avoid personal attacks, you listen to others, you let each person speak once before you speak. Everyone must be 70% comfortable with the project and 100% committed to it. And then you communicate immediately once you agree on a topic. In some countries, it's okay to be late to a meeting. For instance, in places like Italy or France, it's okay to be 10 minutes late, to be fashionably late. But in places like England and the United States, you need to start on time. So that's some of the cultural differences. Active listening, paraphrase the content, feedback the meaning in your own. In other words, when your boss gives you directions, then you would say, so boss, you want us to do A, B, and C. In other words, you repeat whatever it is the boss wants you to do to make sure that you properly understand and did active listening to what the boss wants. You listen to what others have to say so that you can learn from them. You mirror the speaker's feelings. You identify the feelings you think you hear. If you don't understand something, you ask for clarification, and you offer to help others solve the problems. You always have a positive attitude at work. Avoid saying things like, I cannot make it. Instead, you would say, I can come at 5 o'clock, rather than, oh, I'm so busy, I can't. Always emphasize what can be done. Be the solution, not the problem. Now, this is all very American, by the way. Always have a will-do attitude. Seek out feedback rather than dread feedback. So have a growth mindset. You can go to your boss and you say, what can I do to improve my work performance? And then when the boss tells you this is your areas of improvement, rather than be offended, you gladly want feedback. And then you gladly want, in a positive way, you improve whatever it is the boss doesn't like. So don't take feedback as a criticism, just like with peer review. And then when you give feedback, just like with peer review, you want to give actionable suggestions. So how are you supposed to receive feedback in the office? Josie, do you say, I don't want to do this. You're wrong. How come you can't say anything?
A positive attitude.
How do you respond when the person gets defensive? Anybody have a defensive person saying, well, I do it this way because? Anybody?
I would just tell them, like, just we're doing it this way because this is what the task asks us to do. Like, I know personally you do it that way, but this is the direction that we're supposed to do. So let's try to do it this way so we can all get the credit for the group.
Yeah, and if you always insist on doing it your way, that's contrary to what the company wants. Even in an individualistic culture like America, you still have to obey whatever the boss or company is doing. Otherwise, the company would go in 50,000 directions. How do you receive feedback? Are you supposed to be defensive and be like this? Or do you take it on as a positive growth mindset? How do you usually take feedback when someone criticizes you? Do you take it personally?
I don't take it personally.
And
I take it as maybe something I can use later on to help me in different areas.
I once had a student, when I corrected all his errors in his paper, he took it so personally. He said, how dare you correct my paper with all these red marks? I'm, after all, a published author. And how dare any of you critique my work? And that would be in the forums. Would you be that personal or that taken, so personally if I were to mark up your paper with mistakes?
No, I wouldn't have.
No.
I wouldn't. I would be kind of like, I would be
more like maybe I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, like I thought I knew something, but I don't. Like, I would kind of be more like shocked, like, ooh, I thought I had like what's going on here, but I guess I need to go back to the drawing board because like I feel like I would be more like, oh, dang, I thought I did good, but I guess I need to work on some stuff.
And I remember when that student, then the other students are like, well, then what are you doing in this class? You flunked the English writing test. You're in the same class. Those were the responses when this one student in the forum says he was better than everyone else, and the others said, because in that particular school, in order to take English composition class, it means that you flunked the English that the school gives you an English writing test. If you pass the English writing test, you don't have to take English 101. But if you flunk it, you have to take English 101. So everyone in my class had already flunked their test. So they're all saying, you flunked the test just like we did, so therefore you're not so above all of us, or something like that. So you got to listen to what the teacher says, or something like that. And everybody ganged up on him. He didn't like that though. But in the end, he ended up learning a lot. So you always have a growth mindset. Luckily, I don't have many students like that. That was like when I first started doing online teaching. So the format of business communication. So you have internal correspondence, that's mail that's inside the company, external correspondence, that's email or whatever outside the business company. You have sales correspondence, sales proposals, personal correspondence, appreciation letters, circulars, memos, or announcements, posters. So no matter what kind of correspondence, all have the same format: introduction, body, and conclusion. And so just like with an academic essay, your business communication will follow the introduction, where you introduce the topic, give background on the topic, and you declare your thesis statement. So the hook, 5 background sentences, and the thesis are the same in a business letter. Then in the body, you just have 1 paragraph where you have your topic sentence, supporting sentence, and concluding sentence. You don't need 3 body paragraphs, just 1 is good enough. And in your conclusion, you repeat your thesis statement, then you call to action by saying, you should buy our product, you should, in other words, you tell the reader what you want the reader to do. And so that would be the conclusion. So here is what and then also in a memo, you should always write exactly what your topic is going to be, or what that one main idea is going to be should be consolidated in your title. And then you stick to that one idea throughout your email. If you ask your boss for 5 or 6 different things in one email, because the human brain can only handle 2 or 3 things at a time. So it's better to just stick to one topic in one correspondence. And so you have, in an email or business letter, you have your introduction thesis where you introduce the topic, you identify the problem clearly. Then in your body paragraph, or if you need 2 paragraphs, that's very rare, further discussion of the project with data and evidence. And then if you're doing a proposal, you discuss alternate solutions, but you make sure that it's your company that they hire. There are all the other companies that have bad solutions, but your company has the superior solution, so you get hired. Then the conclusion, the call to action in this case for that kind of a letter would be, hire me. I'm the contractor you want to use to build your large parking lot. So unlike an essay where you summarize the conclusion, so in a business writing, the conclusion has results in, it's all about results. When you do business writing, it's all about getting results. When you do a memo, so memo is usually internal correspondence. Style matters, be concise, choose your topics carefully, list all recipients, and proofread what you write. And then this would be a good sample memo where you write the date, the to, from, date, you write your subject, whatever the title is, it should encapsulate your main one idea. Then in your, whatever it is you're going to write, you stick to that one idea. In other words, nobody uses faxes anymore. Boy, I got to take that out. And when you do a presentation, you have the first slide, you have the title of the presentation, then you have the agenda. And then if I list on the agenda, like for instance, today I listed that we're going to go over internal correspondence, external correspondence, how to work in a group, and how to do culture. I remember that was my agenda for this presentation. Then you would list different, whatever the agenda is for each of the different slides. So slide 1, how we work in different cultures. Slide 2, internal correspondence. And slide 3, external correspondence. Do you realize that your agenda is just like your thesis statements? In your agenda is usually the second your second slide, where you just simply make a list, like a table of contents of what is going to be in your PowerPoint presentation. And then that way, each slide would then represent, so the different slides, the middle part is just like the body paragraphs in an essay. Then you have your conclusion, then you have your sources. And you ask yourself, why is it in business communication, all we do is introduction, body paragraph, and conclusion? Why is it always the same? Well, I'm a linguist. That means I study languages. English language is very A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Unlike other languages where it becomes circular. I don't know if you remember the Bible, where you have all these parables. In the parables, you have to read the whole story to guess what the meaning is. So that's very inherent in Hebrew. In Hebrew writing, you can write in circles. But in English, you have to state your topic outright. Then you write 3 body paragraphs to prove that topic, and then you conclude. So that out of all of the languages, English has the easiest logic to understand. Out of all of, if you study all the different languages, even Latin languages tend to go like this. Okay, Hebrew goes like this. It's the same thing with Asian culture. Asian languages tend to go in circles, and Spanish would go like this, and so on and so forth. But English is one arrow that goes straight down. It's the easiest. Do you understand? In terms of logic, always you state your topic, then you have your evidence, and you have your conclusion. Does that make sense? Yeah? So anything you write when you do a oral presentation, this will be what you will, what you write. So let's say I write the dangers of vaping. So that my agenda would be vaping causes lung cancer, throat cancer, and stomach cancer. Then slide 1 would be about vaping and lung cancer. Slide 2 would be about vaping and throat cancer. And slide 3 would be about vaping and stomach cancer. And then in your conclusion, it would be a call to action or a summary. It depends on what and you can use you and your. And this is what your business letter would look like. In your introduction can look like maybe one long two sentences. This is a body paragraph of maybe 1 sentence, and this can be your conclusion. So yes, you can have a 1-sentence paragraph in a business letter, but still the first sentence would be like your introduction and thesis. Then the second sentence would be another paragraph which would just describe the problem or describe the topic, and then the last sentence would conclude the topic and tell the reader what to do. So you still have your introduction. It's just shorter, It's not like an essay where you have to have 3 of them. So in business letters, it's all about being concise. It's one of the 7 C's. Here's another. See how short these. You don't even have. This one doesn't even bother. She put her conclusion. In this case, they put their conclusion and their body paragraph and conclusion, melted it into one. You can do that. But you always have to have an introduction with a thesis. That never goes away. But yes, you can merge your body paragraph and your conclusion paragraph together, since it's so short, since it's only 1 sentence. But the first sentence would be a body paragraph, like to describe it. Then the second sentence would be like to conclude it. And you can merge it together if you want, and then say sincerely yours, whomever it is. So that would be an example of, but you still have to have a salutation, and this person merged everything together, And so you state the problem, you state the solution. So this is a problem. That's another way of writing it. State the problem, that is, you're stating the topic, then you state the solution, and that's your conclusion. So it's known as a problem solution paper. And the longest thing you're ever going to write in business is something called a business proposal. So the first part of a business proposal is where you state the problem. What is the problem? So the problem could be, you would have the background of the problem, the qualification of the problem, the goals of the problem, and then starting down number 4, we're talking about how are we going to solve this problem? Should we do better marketing? So what's the financial plan? Can we afford this solution? And then do we need to take loans? So then this is all different ways of finding ways to solve the problem. So when we do a business proposal, it's you state the problem and then you find solutions to the problem. So it's called problem solution. If you want to look it up, you can look up problem solution essay. So here is the bare bones of a classic business proposal. You have the table of contents, you have the executive summary, and the first 4 are all about what is the problem. And then the last 4 is all about what is the solution. So that is the bare bones. And here you have a more formal. This is how you would write a research proposal for a science paper and for a business paper. You state the problem. You state who is your audience. So is your audience going to be old people, young people, fat people, whatever? Who's going to be your niche? Who's your market? Then data and evidence would be, you would say 70% of people like such, and this is where you put your APA in-text citations. Feasibility, you want, and literature review means, can this be done with our budget? How doable is this? And methods and procedure is exactly what is it that needs to be done. I need to take a poll, or I need to go and find a contractor. So whatever it is, it's some action that needs to take place in order to solve the problem. Qualifications. Well, then the contractor has to have 15 years of experience, or the teacher needs to have a master's degree at least, or a PhD. So that, or good references from other people. Work schedule. They got to be available on weekends, so that when you build the parking lot, you do it during a time when all the workers are not there. So what is your work schedule? What disruptions if you're going to build a larger parking lot? Where's everyone going to park while you're building the new parking lot, and you have to work all that out? So call to action would be, hire my company. I have the best price. I have the best at everything. I am the solution to your problem. Okay, so that's call to action. So this would be a business proposal. So let's say that I'm a contractor and I want to build a larger parking lot for your business, because your business is all squished and your customers have no place to park, which, that sort of thing. So that's a formal business proposal. And also, if you make a research proposal, I'm going to go over how to write a science paper. I think that's week 11. And so I'm going to go over, and it covers almost the same thing, but for science. And so I suggest, and also if you learn how to read a science paper, it makes it easier for you to read the scholarly sources for the papers that you have to read in order to do your papers in other classes. Let's see. And here is a much more formal. So the purpose, so the first half of it is all about the problems, what the problem is, and then from methods down here, it's all about solutions. So you state the problem, and then you state the solution. Once again, here you have, and then if you can't remember, you can just go SOPPADA, SOPPADA. This is the streamlined version of how to remember what the structure of a problem solution paper is. So you can remember as SOPPADA. And so here I gave lots of examples. So what makes a business proposal effective? It's tailored to fit its audience. It's easy to read and understand. It's written in a confident, direct tone, and it's professional in its presentation. And so then I'm going to go over each part of the proposal. You first start with the greeting, then you state your problem, and then in the introduction, you introduce the problem, and you have you have a thesis statement. Then the problem background section, it's kind of like your body paragraph, where you back up your thesis statement with more information about the problem. This is also similar to another body paragraph where you want to, this is an example introduction. Okay, this introduces the problem. This describes the problem like a body paragraph. And then the second half is like your conclusion. So problem, solution. So now you're starting in your conclusion. So in the conclusion or the solution part, you're trying to solve the problem in the second half of the paper. And then you present the solution to the problem by presenting, what's your equipment, what is your method, what is your timetable, and then you discuss how are you going to apply how are you going to apply the solution in real time. So if your proposal costs money, show in a graph how implementation of your proposal can save money over, like it's a worthy investment, even if it's expensive to do, but over time it is a worthy investment. And so that's more examples of, so the call to action would be hire me. So I went over it really, really fast. And when you do a presentation, and if you have a lot of numbers and facts to show, it's good to use graphs so that the reader is not stuck reading 50,000 statistics. So it's good to use graphs so that people have a pie chart or a bar graph so that people can see visually what the numbers, number crunch, what the cost, or what the limitations or the feasibility of your project is going to be. And you use visuals when you want to persuade ideas that are complex or it contains extensive value. Anyway, you can use free software programs like Adobe Spark or Canva to produce business letters, email, cover letters, photo. Everybody at my other school, they're so in love with Canva that they're going to give a master class to teach all faculty how to use Canva in order to basically, I already know how to use Canva, and basically you just upload different pictures. They give you a template and then you upload the pictures that you like. And it even says photo, photo, photo in the template, and you just choose what photo to upload, and voila, you have yourself a poster, brochure, a Facebook meme, or whatever it is you're trying to create. So Canva is a lot of fun, and also cover letters and all of that kind of stuff. I don't think they have an Adobe Spark anymore, but Canva is still huge. And Microsoft Word has templates to teach you, just like we did for the pre-writing, where we made all those graphs. And I gotta tell you that Microsoft Word's graphs are so primitive compared to what you can get in Canva and compared to what you can get in Adobe. Microsoft was always playing catch up to whatever Adobe was doing. But if you're new to graphics, you could always start out in Microsoft, because Microsoft software, they are focused on what the Office does. So Microsoft has decent graphs. But if you're an artist, Microsoft is considered so primitive. And so the class discussion, Katina, what are the rules for working in a group? What is the format of a business letter? Anybody? What are the rules for working in a group at the workplace? Chantel.
I'm not. Is it to get opinions from everybody to come to an agreement?
Yeah, okay. And Josie, what is the format for a business letter or a business proposal?
I'm sorry, I can't remember what the format for that one is.
Basically, you state the problem in the first half of the proposal.
Oh yeah, the bottom of the solution.
Correct. So that's how are these, and it's very similar to a problem solution essay. So have any of you tried using Canva to create a brochure or some kind of for the office?
No.
You should go try it out. It's free and it's a lot of fun. All you got to do is just upload and they give you photos to use. So you just have to choose the right template that you want to use. So if you want to create a really hot memo or a hot Facebook meme or something like that, or a poster, you use Canva. So I remember playing around with it. And what is a call to action conclusion paragraph? Katina.
Where you come up with I guess a plan to answer what the issue might have been or what needs to be done.
Yes, so it's to get the reader to do something about it. And so why do we use graphs and visuals in a oral presentation? And how do we write an oral presentation PowerPoint? Don. How about Chantal? How do we write an oral presentation? A PowerPoint. What is the format of a good PowerPoint presentation?
I remember you saying to put in graphs so that you can keep your audience interested or something like that?
Yes, but how do we format the whole thing from slide to slide? So if you're going to write a 10-slide, a 5-slide, or a 6-slide presentation, how are you going to format that? It's similar to an essay structure, in case that's a big fat hint.
So thesis statement and your reasons.
Right.
And
yeah, so your thesis
to like give data.
Right. And then like you have the first slide is your title slide. Second slide is like a table of contents of everything you're going to cover in that, just like I did with this one. And then if you're going to cover, let's say you're going to cover business correspondence, then you're going to cover quiz 7 prep, then you're going to cover forums, for instance. And then the rest of your presentation, or your slide 1, would be about business presentation, slide 2 would be about quiz 7 prep, and then slide 3 would be about the week 7, whatever it is. So you make a list, and then each of your slides would then represent whatever it is you said in your agenda. Then you write your then your very last slide should be how the reader can contact you, and then other sources that the reader can then go to for more information. So just like you write your essay, you have your thesis statement and the 3 reasons, and then the 3 reasons become your 3 body paragraphs. Well, that's the same thing for your oral presentation. You have it's the same idea, okay? So that's how you would do a PowerPoint and that's it. So I finished, good, yeah, I finished early. So I went through.
Basically, you're saying the last slide should be like basically like a reference page or something?
Yes. Your last slide is your reference page, where I believe that was what my last slide was before I went away. I made it go away too fast. So let me go back to this. So see how I had an agenda. See, look at my agenda. I covered the building blocks of effective messages. I did letters, memos, and email messages, interpersonal communication, working in other countries, and templates and proposals. That pretty much covered this presentation. And then the last slide should be your reference. See, I got to go all the way down. I guess I could have just gone control N. And here, your last slide is like the references to your paper. Does that make sense? So just by showing you how I did this presentation, and that's how you would do your oral PowerPoint presentation if you're going to give a presentation at the office. Now, a lot of people like to give out handouts or copies of their PowerPoint, so that way the listeners are not busy doing this, trying to write it all down, whatever you said, and then they go, no, don't change that slide. I'm still writing it down. So a good best practice is you give everyone a handout of your PowerPoint. So that way people are turning the pages of the PowerPoint of whatever it is, and they could just sit, relax, and listen to you. So that's something teachers have learned over time. How many of you have done a PowerPoint at work? Anybody?
Not me.
No.
Not at work. No, not at work.
So did this help you understand how you do an oral PowerPoint in business?
Yeah.
Yes, it's just like writing your essay. Believe it or not, when you leave this classroom, just because English 101 is done does not mean you stop using this structure. It goes with you. Everywhere you go, I go with you. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I'm saying that the writing structure goes with you. And so what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So if you have no questions, that's the end of today's presentation. So
I have a question.
Sure.
I do too.
Okay, go ahead. I don't know
Go ahead.
who wants to go first.
She can go first.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm not really understanding what is due, and I think I was that way last time too. Is the essay due, or is it just a layout, like how to
Oh, okay.
for the essay?
Okay, for this week, just go week by week. For week 7, the week 7 forum, you just write an outline, choose a topic. We're doing pre-writing. Choose a topic and write an outline. So, number 1, week 7 forum, and then number 2, week 7 quiz. That's it for week 7. It's that simple. Week 7 forum, week 7 quiz. And
Okay.
Week 8 is something else. So we won't worry about week 8 until it comes next week.
I think the last time I wrote the essay out for the pre-writing.
Yeah.
But I think it was supposed to be different. I think it was supposed to be like just an outline, and I think I kind of wrote it all out.
Oh, you can write it all out if you want to. Some people like to write it all out and then have their mistakes corrected right away. Everybody has a different writing style. That's why I'm very flexible in how you present your either you write an outline, you do a mind map, or some people just want to free write 5 paragraphs.
Rodney Hope.
Okay.
So that's my idiot brother. Anyway, I just hung up on him. Anyway, any other questions?
This is about my topic. I guess I have to pick something else. And you said it has to be APA.
Well, what was your topic?
I gotta look at my paper again.
Well, I know somebody said that they wanted something about how their son prefers to do anything he wants or something like that.
Yeah, that was me. It's basically over freedom versus supervision.
Right,
Something like that.
So you can write the advantage. You can go, when you look it up, Google the advantages of giving kids less supervision and more freedom. And then you will get a quote.
You said advantages?
Advantages. The advantages or disadvantages of giving kids more freedom and less parental supervision.
More freedom and less supervision.
Yes. So that will work for your topic. Anybody else?
Yes, my question was about the topic as well. It said you wanted to do something other than what you had listed. We had before. I wanted to do a comparison of fast food versus home cooked food.
Right.
It wasn't on the list. I didn't see that on the list.
But that's okay. Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
You can write about that if you want to. Yeah.
Okay.
And also for any of you who no longer have any questions, you could just sign off if you want. And it's like it's only for the people who still have questions. And if you have no more questions, you can go bye. And then next week I will be doing transition words. Transition words for your week 8 assignment. So that's next week's topic. So if you want to learn about transition words, instead of saying as a child, which is someone who was doing childhood versus adulthood, that was always a popular topic in previous classes, So everybody was saying as a child. No. So you want to vary your sentence structure, and so I will go over how you don't have to always say the same thing over and over again. So we use different kinds of transition words for that. So that's that's a little preview of next week's assignment, or next week's whatever it is we're doing. So if you have no more questions, okay. So if we have no more questions, I will leave you for this week, and I'll see you all next week. And it's been a lot of fun being with you guys. Okay, bye.